Okie dokie. The grand list. Obviously, I kind of got 2/3, like 3/4 of the way through clearing the poly before the mother returned. Where is she? In the back there. You can't see her. She's not made an appearance yet. Didn't do much of the tidying the outside of the greenhouse, but part of clearing the poly is we've got to mulch in there. So that will clear a bit of that space out so we can kind of jostle with that. I finally brought the coriander seed up to sow on the 2 outsides of the carrot bed. Got to get some rocket in. Sugar snaps. Now this was last week. I couldn't understand what I'd written on there. I was like sniffing the snips. I had a couple of people comment, I think it's sugar snaps. You're absolutely right, it was sugar snaps. So I've got to get them in. Sorry, you're moving around in the wind. Then I've got a load of lettuce to plant out. We've got a load of those brassicas to plant out from last week. At least decide what bed they're going to go in. And then we've got bed clearance to do. So a lot of things in that heat wave we had just bolted. Stuff that we were waiting for and waiting for and waiting for. Suddenly it just went shoo. So like the chicory and stuff that we were waiting to heart up, that really hot weather just did for it. So we've got a bit of bed clearance to do and just kind of crack on with things. But anyway, would you like to make your grand reappearance, Mum?
I'm not going to leave it.
Ta-da! Why did you say, Anne, I can leave the...
I was going to go and put this out for Lily. It's what Tally didn't need.
Okay.
Right. Let's get down to it.
Okay, first off, let's finish the job we started. So we did pretty well in here, actually. The only things that was left was the spring onions and the coriander that I'm hoping to go to seed. Some of those corianders don't have any flower head left on them, so I'm just going to take them out anyway and just leave the couple that do, just hoping for a bit of self-seeding. Spinach needs to come out, and then what we're going to do is clear the whole thing and give it a really good soak. Because it's got so dry in here, it's going to take a bit of work to get it soaked back through again. So we'll leave the hose, you know, running and try and get this really nice and damp. Oh, we've got a helicopter going over. Ooh, exciting. Yep, so that is the first job of the day. So these are Ishikura. This is a new variety that I think I started growing last year because it's one that Grown Local sells, Ian sells, and originally got the seed for this when we were doing the allium sow along. Do you remember? It was leeks, spring onions, and I think it might have just been normal onions, like red baron onions. Anyway, so I got a packet of this seed. Really, really great spring onion. I shall be continuing to grow it because these, like, look at the size of some of these. They are fatties, right? That is a big spring onion, and yet it's got no hard core at all. They're still looking really fantastic, and the quality of the growth on them is just fantastic. So I think I've now found my 2 main spring onion varieties. It's been Lilia for a long time, which is the pink, like the really purple one. It's beautiful. Ishikura is going to be my green one. These are great. These have been in here all winter, and I'll be doing that again this year. They looked so sad to begin with because in here it was really, really cold and damp, and they had a lot of mold. You know, the tops of them really went moldy. They were looking incredibly sad, but actually seeing how they've recovered and how we've been eating them now for the last month or so, and this is just the last of them, that was well worth sticking them in for the winter. Absolutely brilliant. Woo, hat. Look at these, Mum. Woo, losing one. Look at these. Absolute beauties. But yeah, if you look at the size of these, they're huge, and there's no like flower core coming out of there. They're just going to be perfect. Really great. Where's the basket? In here. First thing achieved. I'm not going to go straight to tidying the outside of the greenhouse. The next thing I need to do is get the hose on in that polytunnel and see if we can get that incredibly dry, fluffy compost to absorb a bit of water. The raised beds in the polytunnel are filled with compost, like potting compost rather than soil. And so when they really dry out, they get hydrophobic, which means you can't just water them. It's like the water just doesn't go in. You've got to really churn it up like soup to get any kind of absorption whatsoever. So as you can see, I've watered this, right? It looks wet on top, but look at this. It's just like a cap of bone dry underneath. So this is going to take a lot of mixing and a lot of watering and a lot of stirring until it actually will absorb something. We do have this problem in here every year. And it's last year I put the hose in, you know, like the little watering system, to try and combat it. And actually it worked really, really well. Didn't put it in this year because, you know, we recovered the polytunnel. Well, I'd got everything all a bit late. So that's something we will be doing ASAP. I've got to get the ground wet first, really get it to soak in so that we're starting with a good base. Then we'll get the mulch on and then I will put the soaker hose back in here and attach it to the water butt outside. So we're definitely going back to that because it worked really, really well that year. Just failed on it last year. Okay, ooh, a bit windy. Next up, I think I'm going to tackle the bed that's had the most problems with bolting. It's the first bed just behind you. So this one, up until that hot weather we had, which was like, it lasted about, what, 8 days or something, that hot weather, up until that point. Okay, so the mustard greens had started going. But a lot of the rest of this stuff in this bed was looking really promising and that heat just did for it. So I'm going to do a bit of clearance in here and salvage what I can. Okay, well we got 3 leaf chicories in here. 2 of them have gone completely and they're producing these very strange flower stalks. I'm tempted to let them to leave them purely because they have the most beautiful flowers. However, this is on a bed that we've got a cage over the top, one of the few, and so they get to like 12 foot tall. So I'm not going to do that. We've got plenty others around the site that can flower, but these ones are not going to be allowed to. We do, however, have one that is still looking fantastic, and we're going to be eating that. So these are the first things to go. The leaves on the outside here look like they would be okay, but once they've produced that stem, I mean, they're bitter anyway. The chicory leaves are bitter, but once they've done that, they are like turn your face inside out bitter and actually gone beyond pleasant. So that's a no. We do have, what's this? Oh, beetroot here. It's gone to seed. Fantastic. There's a couple more in here actually that haven't done anything. These were the ones that I planted like 5 rows of them in here. This whole centre section was beetroot and it got dug out, hence we put the cage on. But it appears that some did actually survive. It's a nice one actually, it's a yellow beetroot. I'll put that in the basket to take home. Then it's going to be a case of clearing these. So these leaves actually don't look that nice. Some of them are okay, but they've got a little bit powdery mildewy. Let me show you. Can you see that? Just turn it around like this. Can you see how it's got like, I mean, the top leaves look all right. The bottom leaves look really a little bit sad. So I'll be able to salvage less off this than I thought, but the girls will eat the rest. They don't mind a bit of white. I know that there'll be people out there saying, leave it to flower for the bees. We've got so much brassica flowering across the plot. Nobody's going to miss this, and we need to get this bed cleared because I've got things to plant in it. So it's going, I'm afraid. That's not much root at all. Prime example of club root here. So it's funny how it affects one plant and then not so much the next, in the sense of, I don't mean different types of plants. I mean, you plant a row of green wave mustard, 4 of them are absolutely fine, and 1 of them ends up looking like this. And you can see how little root is on that. That should be a root system from there. And it's got club root, which you can see why it's called club root. And it does that, and it means the plant is just never really going to have a chance of getting going. If you imagine, like, all the filaments that are supposed to be taking in the nutrients and the water are just, there's just nothing there, is there? We've got this, that's it. Not so good, really. A battle. Thumbs up for waterproof mascara and eyeliner though. Doesn't seem to have come off at all, actually. Oh, a little bit. Oh dear, that was a real fight. I can't believe how dry that soil gets. It's unbelievable, because there's nothing coming up from below. It is an enclosed system because we had to keep the rats out and all that kind of thing. Oh. Yeah, it's basically like growing in pots, which is fine. That's what we have intended. If we didn't have such a big problem with animals digging in and rats and that kind of thing, well, then we would just be planting basically straight into the soil. But we've got double whammy, really, of rats digging up underneath, and then the squirrels come in and just take all the produce, take all the tomatoes and everything. Plus, you don't want rats in there. But we've also got, because it's along the edge with the trees, that those tree roots in there are nuts, and they're sucker trees, so they come up and then they just go straight up, and those roots suck everything out of the soil. I mean, if you were watching me redo that polytunnel about this time last year, actually, the amount of tree roots that I dug out of there, just because, and they take everything, they just suck it dry. I'm really pleased to say that as I'm digging through that now, there's none of those tree roots in there. So there's lots of roots, but they're like from the tomatoes and stuff from last year. So that's not so much of a problem, because I just chop them off rather than dig them out. But yeah, so that's been successful. There's been no rat activity in there, touch wood, for the whole of the summer and last winter. So I think it's been successful, but it does mean that if you let that dry out, it is a nightmare. So that was a real battle, but making progress. I think we'll probably have to do that all once more again, and then I'll get that soaker hose in there then we should be good for the summer. Right, I am now soaked, and although it was blooming hot in the polytunnel, it's actually not that blooming hot out here. So I think we're going to head off in a second. Got some good things done today though, and this afternoon I'm recording the next episode, episode 2 of Common Ground with Alex, which is really exciting. Can't believe how well the first one went down, so thanks to everybody who watched it. That was really good. We've had some absolutely lovely reviews, so now we've got second album pressure, you know. Now the second one's got to be up there. But anyway, we're recording that this afternoon, so I'm going to go home and dry off. Luckily, it's not a visual podcast, you know. It's not like Potty Mouth or something where you're actually being recorded by face. It's just voice. So the fact that I look like this is neither here nor there. Right. Are you ready to go, Mum?
I am. I'll just get my stuff together.
Goody, goody. We've got lunch, haven't we?
Yes, and I'm
Got
coming back, and
lunch.
I'll come back to do them later today.
Yeah, we're not going to take the chicory that we're going to have for dinner. We'll come back and pick that up later on. It is only like just coming up to 12:30, so we'll be back later. Oh, girlies, I know. Although today, have I got my mic on? Yes. Although today we've got some beautiful sunshine. The forecast said no sun today and wind and cold. Well, actually it's windy, but what a lovely day. Tomorrow I'm not up here, and then Friday the weather looks like it's back up again. It's not going to be quite as hot, like it was 27. It's going to be about 22, sunny, perfect. So we've got a really good weekend ahead of us. Tomorrow, however, I am nipping over to Kew Gardens, so I will do a little update on what's happening in their vegetable garden. Morning, chaps. Actually, there's less going on here than I thought there would be. There is a lot of completely empty beds. Very surprising. I suppose it looks tidy. Fruit trees the blossom is over on the fruit trees, and there's quite a lot of little fruit coming along. They do have a patch of lettuces here, which are an awful lot further along than the ones I've just planted out. They have got spinach, which hasn't bolted, which is a bit of a surprise. And then there's a really dark one, which is called a maize. Not grown that one before, but mainly, chaps, it is blank beds. Very surprising. Their Mizuma's looking really fantastic though. Look at that, they've got a mixture of the green and the red. So that red one I'm growing for Hampton Court. I think it's so pretty. Really hope mine get to that size. And this, have a look at this beauty. This is a Chinese celery called Flamingo. How pretty is that? Hang on, let me see if I can get a bit closer. How pretty is that? They're like variegated and pink. Nodding onions, this is something I'd really like to get hold of. Look how beautiful they are. So they're like a spring onion type or a garlic chive, but they've got these beautiful little nodding heads, like little swan necks. What they have got in is loads of dill and parsley all along the sides here. So that's going to look amazing in a couple of months' time. More lettuces. This is Freckles, which is a pretty standard one, but I love the look of it. Not that keen on the flavour. Then they've got a Cos type, and this one is Lola Rossa. Onions and shallots, however, do look really good. Here's the coriander. So they're doing Calypso. That is the same variety that I've just bought to put in the carrot bed. Elephant garlic. I have never managed to get my elephant garlic to look as handsome as that, so well done, Kew. Ditto on the artichokes. It's so infuriating. Like, artichokes just grow, you know, on the edge of a roundabout in the blooming motorway, and I cannot get them to grow. Infuriating. This is something I don't have any trouble growing though, is pink tree spinach. So this is the stuff that I have potted up also for Hampton. Looking beautiful. Theirs are looking really nice actually. Funnily enough, Mum ate quite a lot of this when she was in Morocco. So she's come back all enthusiastic. So it's no longer a weed in her eyes. Lemon verbena, looking gorgeous. These are the walking. Oh, they've got some great alliums here at the moment. These are the walking onions. This is something else I quite fancied having a go at. And actually what is this? This is Japanese ginger. Anybody got any experience with that? I've never seen it before. This, however, I've seen plenty of. We've got this one at the allotment. This is the Cranberry maritima, the sea kale, which grows outside our greenhouse door. Ours is a purple variety though, and it's got like pink flowers rather than white. Broad beans, they do have, although they're looking a little bit wind beaten, poor chaps. One of the things since they redid this garden, it used to be quite enclosed, and it seems to me since they've kind of opened it up and made it much more accessible, which obviously on one hand is really important, it's made it really exposed for the plants. Like you can see this, the peas are looking very bedraggled. There are a couple of peas on there though. But yeah, look, it's just really barren. Even when they've got a lot growing, it feels quite barren. But this is the stuff dreams are made of. How much would I give for this? What have they got in here? More lettuce. They're quite strong on lettuce this year. But look at that. Imagine what we could do with that, chaps. Oh, it's got all the auto window openers and everything. Bet they're not hydrophobic. This is odd. This is odd. So this is I've just moved up onto the fruit section, and this nectarine has got some kind of terrible mite problem, and it's all twisty. This is the other one, so they've both got it. It's really deformed its growth. That's what it should look like. Yeah, but they're both nectarines. What a shame. This is interesting though. Have a look at this, Szechuan pepper. I've seen Szechuan pepper growing before, but not outside in the UK. That is interesting. The variety is actually Devon. That's interesting. I wonder if it's one that grows particularly well outside. But to be honest, boys and girls, that is actually about all they've got going on in their veg patch at the moment, which makes me feel much better about mine. Oh, I tell you what they do have open though is the student garden. So we'll just have a little bit of a look round there, and I will see you back at the allotment in the morning. Good morning, we are back. It is a beautiful sunny day today, but it's a little bit windy, so apologies if we have a bit of wind interference. First job of my morning is going to be doing a bit of planting out actually. I've got chard and lettuces to go out, and I'm going to put them in this bed here. Where's my finger? There, just here. You can see behind here, I've got 2 rows of chard in there already, and I'm actually going to use the same covers because they've worked really well. That's these guys. So these are Ford Hook Giant, and they've come on brilliantly. They looked really sad when we first put them in, but this bit of protection I think has done them a lot of favours. We've got this little plastic mesh over the top. So this is that stuff which is the wire coated mesh that's covered in plastic, and previously I've used these bits for the inside of the greenhouse for growing cucumbers and melons, etc. up. Which is why it's all cut into little pieces, because it kind of fits into weird spaces in there. But this one is the full length of the bed, and I think it's worked brilliantly for this. So what I'm going to do is actually order some more of this. It just comes on a roll and it's not expensive. Just cut it all to 1.20 m, which is the standard width of our beds, and have a whole load of these little protection cloches for early planting out. Obviously, the plants are going to outgrow them quite quickly because they're quite small, but they do the job very well at this time. And actually, if they were, you know, wider, you wouldn't be able to do a huge one with these because they are just a little bit too flimsy. But you would be able to get, you know, considerably larger than these. These are just little tiny ones. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to order a roll of these. These guys have just outgrown them. But yeah, look how healthy they look. Like I say, this is all 4-hook giant, which will get pretty big. Very pleased. We only lost one right at the front there. So I'll reuse those. And the chard that we're putting in the bed in front is peppermint chard. That is these chaps. These are the same ones that, poor little things, got turfed out. You know, when some creature was walking across the bench in the greenhouse last week, but they have survived. A couple of them look a little bit sad, but they've come back. So how many do I have here? I'm going to do 5 in a row. So what I did there? No, I did more than that there, but 5 in a row. So I've got 3 rows here. I've only got 2 rows of those hoops, but actually I'm just thinking about it. I've got 2 rows of lettuces to go in too. I wonder if I just put these up. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I'm going to put these under the main cloche, so they'll be in the centre of the bed. And then I'm going to put 2 rows of lettuces on that side and use those little things. That's a plan. Got a little row of spring onions there. They're the ones that got dug out last week, but actually, I mean, I touch wood, there's only been a little bit of die-off at one end, which are the ones that had their roots exposed on that really hot, windy day. All the rest of them look like they've survived the worst of it. Okay, that's nice. I'm going to use this end, like I say, for some lettuces. So I'm going to go and get them. I've actually planted 5 different lettuces in this tray and only 2 of them have come up. So this is my tray. I've already taken something out of the middle, but I've got lob joints and I've got Webb's Wonderful. I have 1 sulfita in there. Nothing from Rossa di Trento, nothing from Beauregard. I think it may have been old seed. I've actually bought some more Beauregard, so hopefully the second sowing, which I've already done, will get some more up. But yeah, I've got 2 rows here, so I'm quite happy with that. Now, sorry about this wind. I really do hope you can hear me and it's not too awful. So I've planted these were quite big plants, these chard plants. You know, I've brought them on in individual pots and they're quite well established. So they'll be fine planting through this quite thick mulch that we've got on the top here. The lettuces, on the other hand, are absolutely not. So I'm going to make 2 gullies in the mulch and then plant them direct into the moist soil underneath. And then as they get bigger and more established, I'll just shuffle the mulch in on them and then they'll be back to, you know, growing up through the mulch. But initially, if I just planted straight into this stuff, they'd have no chance. It's just too crumbly, it's not proper soil, it doesn't hold any moisture, it would just be a disaster. And actually it's just well-rotted horse manure, so it'd probably burn their roots anyway. So 2 gullies and we'll get these in, which means that I need my scoop trowel. Mama's just found some more of that mesh in the netting shed. So what I'm going to do is, we've got these two bits here. These are beds that have also been mulched because they are the late, so the main crop potato beds. I'll just move this out of the way because that's unnecessary. Which means that they're ready to go. And we've got these two patches at the front here. Now the beans are going to go up these arches. Wow, that's rock solid. The beans are going to go up these two arches. So I don't want to plant lettuces too close to the poles. But the inside section where we normally plant things like parsley, spinach, that sort of thing, I'm just going to put some lettuces in there. I got half the lob joints out in that bed, but it's mainly Webb's Wonderful. And Webb's Wonderful are much wider lettuces than the lob joints, so I can plant these ones quite close together. But I am going to need to do the scoop again because these have been mulched. Where is my scoop? So these lettuces that I'm planting out now are the ones that we sowed at the very tail end of March. I got a second load in last month, which are just starting to get their true leaves now, and I'll sow another one at the end of this month probably. Lettuces being one of those things that we just kind of rolling sow from now until the end of the summer. Like, I'm not concerned that my Beauregard and who else didn't come up, my Rossa di Trento, I'll just keep sowing them, and we'll get some months and we'll get others the other month. You know, it's one of those things. What doesn't get eaten by the slugs should come on really nicely. It's always a problem when you plant the lettuces out. They are so delicate and so tiny. But I think that's it for today, chaps. It's a big day tomorrow because, yep, it is tomato day. We are bringing the tomatoes up from home. I've got wildly too many of them, so I'm just going to bring them all up and then work out which ones are the best from up here, because I've got a lot of people up here who quite fancy some of the varieties that we've got. So I'll bring them all up and then we will sort through them. And yeah, it is going to be polytunnel planting day. Exciting, exciting. Okie dokie, chaps, the moment has arrived. The tomatoes are going in. So unfortunately, it's been quite windy outside. So there's no draft in here though, sadly, but it's been quite windy outside. And these are obviously really like soft, tender plants because they've just been in the conservatory at home, and they have been flopped all over the show, which is a real problem. However, all of the strings that I rescued from last year are still perfectly intact. There was only one and I've had to just like replace the end. So I'm really chuffed with that. Let's get this sorted. I'm going to place the cherries first. So the two cherries that I want to be on either side of the doorway, here and here, are Garnet and Sungold. I want Sungold and Garnet to be on either side here because they just continuously grow. Like all the way through to November, they'll keep going, and I'll train them up over the top of the polytunnel. So they'll just keep going, whereas the rest of them will kind of reach the roof and stop. That one's going to go there. And then where's Garnet? Okay. That's really the only ones that I am very keen to place. All the rest of them can just go. So we've got Sky Comish, Sart Relays, Grushkova. The beautiful Japanese black Trefeli can go right at the front here, nice. Sergeant Pepper, Black Rebel. Now you were on that side last time. I think I'm going to put you here. The beautiful Pork Chop is a really bright yellow one, but it's big, so that can go that side. Alice's Dream. Oh, where are we going to put you? Black Crim, absolute beauty. You can go right there, fatty. And this one is Black Moon. Where have we got space? One there. So how am I doing for spaces? One, two. I have got 2 spaces left. Oh, you can't see me. I've got 2 spaces up. 2 spaces left for doubles. I'm going to plant these and then have a think about who I'm going to double up. I am using exactly the same method that I've been using since I built this polytunnel to support my tomatoes, which is the string and anchor method. I just find it so much better than sort of bamboo canes or trying to tie them in and that kind of thing. I do, however, go into quite a lot of explanation most years about this. So rather than do that again this year, if anybody's interested in a bit more of a detailed explanation in what I'm doing, I'll put a link underneath to a previous year's video where I detailed what I'm up to, and I'll put a timestamp there so you can find it really easily. So I've had a bit of a think about those extra 2 slots, and we've decided to go dead classic. So we are putting in an extra Japanese black Trefeli because I love that tomato. And we're going to put in a black Crim. So black Crim, absolute classic, bog standard, massive, like, a black Crim is also known as black Russian. It's the same tomato. What a stunner. Great slicer, great for cooking, like making a tomato sauce out of a black Crim is peak. And I just think, well, why not? Why not go for 2 that we absolutely know we love? So that's what I'm going to put in now, and then I'll talk you through my arrangement. There's also the added bonus that the Japanese black Trefeli is a potato leaf variety, and they're just gorgeous. They are just gorgeous. So beautiful. Just adds to how lovely it all is. There we go, Japanese black number 2. Another advantage of the black Crim is that they're really strong growers. So that always helps. There we go. Tomatoes in. The smell in here is absolutely incredible. It just smells exactly like summer. It's gorgeous. Anyway, all of these guys just need a really good drink now. And to be honest, ditto. That's better. Cheers, chaps. That was what was needed. Actually, the sun was out just a second ago. A big black cloud has just come over the top of us. Not sure if it's going to be rain, but to be fair, we could do with it if it is going to be rain. So yeah, the tomatoes, I've got my master list so I can tell you everything that went in. Okay, so cherries, we've got Sun Gold, Brad's Atomic Grape, Garnet, Green Doctor and Chocolate Cherry. Chocolate Cherry is a sneaky one along with a larger tomato that's called Orange Wellington that both came from Johanna. You may have noticed as I was planting them out that 2 of those tomatoes were a lot larger than the rest of them. Well, those 2, unsurprisingly, are from Johanna. And the rest of the tomatoes are Pork Chop, Black Rebel Starfighter Prime, Sergeant Pepper, Grushkova, Sart Relays, Black Moon, Black Crim ×2, Alice's Dream, Sky Comish, Japanese Black Truffelli ×2. That is the indoor tomatoes for the year. So there's still quite a few to go outside. Sky Comish is one of them because that's supposed to be blight resistant as well. And I've got a whole load that are still here that are ready to go. And that left me quite a lot of tomatoes actually left over for other people. So I've had some people have like bagsy this, bagsy that. So I've kept those aside. And then there's going to be a plant sale down at Manor Road Allotments in 2 weeks time. So anything that I haven't given away by then will go down there. And don't forget, string method for tomatoes, if you haven't watched it previous years, is down with the timestamp underneath the video. So yeah, interesting at Kew. They seem to be really quite far behind, but their alliums were absolutely amazing. And I tell you what, 2 things we saw while I was there that I didn't film because we were just out and about walking around. One of them was it happened to be the VE Day celebrations that day, like the official one, not the weekend one. And because at Kew Gardens is as you come into Brentford, like the flyover. So we got the flyover, or part of the flyover came right over the top of us, which was really fantastic. That's like the... I love a flyover. I'm really lucky in Richmond actually, because it wasn't this time because they come over Buckingham Palace and then along away. They were going the other direction this time. But a couple of years ago when they had the really, really big flyover, go to the top of Richmond Hill and they just all come roaring over the top of the hill, like out into the... It was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so we caught them. And something else I saw at Kew that was really... Sorry, the wind's back again. Something else I saw at Kew that was absolutely lovely is they've got this beautifully trained wisteria up this kind of magical fairy cave arch thing. It's been there for years and I actually hadn't even realised it was white because I always miss it in flower. I just assumed it was a purple one, but no, it's white. It was looking beautiful, absolutely lovely. All they need now is a bench inside. But yeah, so mum is back, tomatoes are in. What more could we want? We've got a beautiful week of sunshine ahead of us, although... feels a bit ominous at the moment. So episode 2 of Alex and I's Common Ground podcast was recorded this week. That is coming out on Friday the 16th. The fundraiser for Hampton Court is still going. Links to all of this will be underneath. I'll also put links to the 2 spring onions I was talking about because that Ishikura I'm well impressed with. Really, really impressed with that one. And obviously Lilia, you know how much I love that one. So yeah, next week, what are we doing? I'm going to get that compost bin sorted next week. I did a bit of shuffle, like I moved a lot of the stuff out the way and I sort of started leveling the ground, but I haven't got any further than that. So that is a big one for this week. Did a lot of strimming actually, I didn't record it. But I did quite a lot of strimming and I trimmed around the seating area. So that's now looking quite good. And the dahlias are up. I've moved some dahlias. So I'll show you what I've done along that edge and we'll just crack on, I guess. There's loads more sewing to do. I've got quite a lot of Hampton Court stuff to do next week. So I'll catch you up on what I'm doing with that. I've got some more potting up. I've got a Gretty to do, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's cheers. Cheers to everybody who's watching. Cheers to everybody who listened to the podcast because that was amazing. We got some absolutely brilliant reviews and we got some really, really good download rates. So, and obviously, cheers to my Patreons, the Monday Clubbers. Cheers, chaps.